Folks, making money for your investors, which Romney did very well, is not the president's job. That doesn't mean the private equity guys are bad guys. They're not. But that no more qualifies you to be president than being a plumber. It doesn't, and by the way, there are a lot of awful smart plumbers. So it's totally legitimate for the president to point this out.
And as we all know, it's very expensive to hire a plumber sometimes. Anyway, let's bring in the panel. Washington Post political reporter Nia Malika Henderson, Roll Call associate politics editor David Drucker, always snappily dressed, and USA Today Washington bureau chief Susan Page. Values versus skills, a values argument. Joe Biden doubling down on the values argument. Nia, it seems to me we now know where they're going with this Bain. Our poll, I think, showed why they want to disqualify the businessman approach.
That's right, and some Republicans I've talked to feel like Romney has established himself as a wealthy businessman, but not yet as a job creator. So they are trying to, Democrats are obviously trying to lock that into voters' minds. If you look at these polls so far, 9% of folks have a negative impression of Bain, something like 20%, a relatively positive one. And
no, it's the other way around. 9 positive, 19 negative.
19 negative, but like 53, 54.
They don't know it yet.
They don't know it yet. So this is where the Democrats are really trying to lock in on some sort of impression of Bain.
David, it seems that the response of the Republicans when it comes to Bain right now is simply, hey, look at all the Democrats that want to praise Bain. They haven't answered this, frankly, what I would call the nuanced charge that the president articulated Monday in Chicago and the vice president doubled down on. They haven't answered that charge yet, and they may need to.
They're going to have to answer it, and they're going to have to do it well. But I'd say that Governor Romney, since the initial Republican primary dust-up about vulture capitalism, has actually done an increasingly good job at dealing with this. And his answer has been that there's all these great things I can do for you, and my experience gives me the skill to accomplish it. Now, I would say this. I think the Romney campaign is happy to take the Bain attacks because right now it means that the focus of the election is on the economy and jobs, and that's where he wants it.
You know, it does strike me, the competency argument. There's a lot of candidates who've made competency an argument and they never get elected president, or they don't get reelected president. Whether it was Michael Dukakis, frankly, George H.W. Bush made a competency argument against Bill Clinton. It didn't work. It's tough.
But I think this is 2004 all over again, because you have an election that actually increasingly looks like 2004 with the president in trouble, but is the alternative acceptable? And what the Republicans did then was take John Kerry's biggest asset, his credentials as a war hero, and made it a negative. And that's what the Democrats are trying to do now.
Vote? Is that what you're saying?
Bain is Swift vote.
Bain is Swift votes?
But Romney's best thing is, I'm a businessman who knows how to fix the economy. They're trying to turn that around.
The important thing here, though, is how do Americans feel about the president's record on the economy? They were very happy about President George W. Bush's record on national security. Made it easier for Republicans to damage Kerry.
All right, I want to show Republicans are making enjoying the headline out of Arkansas and Kentucky, where the president at 40%, basically over 40%, go with somebody else, either uncommitted and all this stuff. They have a little fancy new little tchotchke today that they're unloading, the uncommitted button. But Nia, I would like to remind people how there is still a lot of registered Democrats in Kentucky, Arkansas, and West Virginia who haven't voted Democrats in presidential elections in a long time.
That's right, and a lot of these folks voted for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, and they all voted for John McCain.
Exactly.
Okay,
and
so
these are states that are not going to be in play for President Obama in this campaign. So
they're having fun with it, but it's a non.
Talking point Republicans doesn't matter in the least.
One place matters. North Carolina, 21% voted uncommitted. That's a swing state. Kentucky
Again,
doesn't matter.
I go back to the Southern thing, and I think that there is still a Southern hangover where you have in local elections, conservatives are still registered Democrats.
But that's the state that they want to contest. They want it to be a swing state. They need some of those Democrats to come home.
All right, we're going to talk a little VP stuff. Bobby Jindal's interesting answer that's coming up. Paul Ryan stumping for the candidate. I mean, speaking at the Reagan Library. Trivia time, we asked, in the Saturday Night Massacre, who eventually fired Archibald Cox? The answer was then Solicitor General Robert Bork. Years later, the Senate would block Bork's nomination to the Supreme Court. The term borking, of course, now refers to political nominee not getting a job. And by the way, Bill McIntyre just shared, Elliot Richardson apparently asked Bork to stay so there wouldn't be a constitutional crisis, and that's why Bork reluctantly stayed on and did the firing. He testified to that at Bork's Supreme Court hearing, by the way. You're watching the Daily Rundown, only on MSNBC. Lots to grow on.